Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Northeastern Conference Health Ministries annual gardening workshop. This is our fourth annual gardening workshop. I bring you greetings from my president, Dr. Eldine King, from my executive secretary, Dr. Nicardo Delahaye, our CFO, Dr. Brian McDonald, and our Associate Executive Secretary, Dr. Keith Albu. I also bring you greetings from my Associate Health Ministries leaders, Pastor Nigel Stothard and Pastor DeBito Brown. Also, from our administrative assistant who works in the two departments, health being one, and chaplaincy, and she is no other than Avery Dawson. In a few minutes, she will come on and say hi to you. But today, we want to thank you for joining us. This is free of cost, so tell your friends, tell your families. The first job that God gave to humanity, Adam and Eve in the garden, was gardening. And the last job and the job of eternity that we will have will be gardening. The Bible talks about building houses and planting vineyards. So what you are going to engage in today is some skills that will help you in this life and in the one to come. Of course, Jesus, when he comes back, and he will be the master gardener, and he will teach us things that we haven't learned here. For one thing, we would not have to deal with diseases and pests. We will have bountiful harvests and crops over there. But it's a very therapeutic experience personally. And we believe that through gardening, you can touch lives and lead them to Christ. And as you watch the gardening, the plants grow, it develops in you the character to know that the grace of God grows within you step by step, every step of the way, to shape you, to mold you until you bear the fruits of the Holy Spirit, and what joy it is. So with that, let me pray as we begin. And let me ask you also to share the word. This is special. People pay a lot to get these instructions, but you are getting it for free. But it's not really free. It's costly, but for you, you don't have to pay anything. All right? So this is coming compliments from the Northeastern Conference and compliments from our two presenters, Brother Scott and Sister Ramona Harkes, whom I will introduce later on. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you again for this another opportunity that we can have this gardening workshop to teach your sons and daughters, boys and girls everywhere, teachers and pastors and housewives and whatever our profession is, medical doctors, nurses. We could teach them how they can plant and how they can grow and how they can reap and how they can eat healthy and live to their fullest. Because you have come to give us abundant life, we believe sometimes we have to do some things, and gardening is one. So bless this program today, we pray, in the name of Jesus. Amen and amen. All right, let me introduce you briefly to Avery Dawson. Avery, come on over and share a word of greetings. She is our administrative assistant at the Northeastern Conference. Avery.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be able to join you today as we learn how to garden and how to grow our own food. If you're like me, you're horrified to see what is happening in the world, that we can't even find natural foods. So learning how to do it is exciting for me, and I hope it's exciting for you as well. Don't forget, share the link, send it to your family and friends so they can come on and learn as well. Thank
Amen.
you, and may God bless you.
Yeah, and if you notice, Avery is upside down or so, that's a lesson there for us. The Lord will turn you around and change all whatever is not working right into a fruitful and abundance life. All right. So it might have happened accidentally, but it has a lesson for us in our experience. Let me, without any further ado, now introduce you to two of our excellent professional gardeners. And they have been with you for the past 4 years. In fact, we have a group, the GGG, Gardening WhatsApp group. And if you would like to join that group, we will put the link in the chat so you could join it and get continuous guidance on how to grow. A lot of people have been benefited from that. So let me introduce you first of all to Brother Spencer Scott. He is a master gardener, in fact, farmer. He does it on a small scale. He does it on a large scale. You name it, he has it. And he has a lot of experience. He has his own ministry, his own website, which he will tell you about at the right time when he feels like. And he has taught a lot of people around the world. In fact, one person came on early and said, you know, I know Brother Scott. And I'm confident that hundreds, if not thousands of you can say the same. So Brother Scott, my brother, it's so nice to partner with you for the past 4 years. And thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Good to be here.
All right, you'll hear from him a little later. And now let me introduce you to Sister Ramona Harkis. She is what I like to call the city gardening expert. When we started this program, the idea there is to teach people in the city with the little space that they have, even without space. They have even if they're living in an apartment, how they can plant in pots and how they could use their little space to grow food for themselves and their family. And she herself has modeled it. She doesn't have a lot of space in her yard, but she grows so much to bless so many people. And she is not gardening is not her profession per se. That's her love and that's her hobby. She is a registered nurse and she works, that's her profession. So you see, you could be in your profession and also be a gardener. I'm a gardener too, and I love it. So Ramona, I am so delighted that you have given me personally some great guidance along the way. Like she will call me around Halloween and said, Pastor, now is the time to plant garlic. And then she would talk about all the things that I will ask her about. So Ramona, so happy and delighted. You know what? And she's from my, I would say, village in Guyana. Mona, I'm so delighted to have you on.
Thank you, Dr. Darnarine.
All right.
Good
So
afternoon.
at this time, I present to you our
Please
gardening
report.
coach, Ramona Harkis, and our gardening expert, Brother Spencer Scott. You take it away, guys.
Right.
Ramona, go ahead. Go ahead and present.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ramona, your gardening coach. Thank you so much for being here today. You chose to be elsewhere, but you choose to be here today with us. So I thank you. For those of you who have been here for the past 4 years, I just want to thank you for returning and for your ongoing continued support. Dr. Darnarine, thank you for facilitating. Thank you for recognizing our talent. Thank you for doing a great job in bringing us here for the past 4 years. Brother Spence, I could not have chose another co-educator than yourself. Thank you so much for being cooperative, willing to do this with me. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you tuning in. So welcome to Garden in the City. I'm Ramona, your gardening coach. So I've put together some learning objectives, and after this presentation, you, the participant, will be able to demonstrate an understanding of the basic principle involved in initiating a garden, be able to demonstrate between seasonal, indoor, and outdoor vegetation, be able to analyze various gardening methodology, and be able to develop a structural plan for cultivating gardens in your city, church, school, and home settings. So, of course, gardening started with God. So my text today is taken from Leviticus 26, chapter 26, verse 4. It said, I will send you rain in its seasoning, and the ground will yield crops, and the trees their fruits. This verse reassures me of God's provision through the natural processing of farming. It reminds me that His blessing include rains and fruitful land, sustained life and prosperity. As a gardener, I depend upon God's timing for a favorable and bountiful success of my garden. So I give Him praise and thanks. So let's begin with fundamentals of starting a garden. So we have decided, those of us here, that we wanted to start a garden. What are the 4 things that we should consider? First, the location. It depends upon what you want to grow and where you're living, your growing zone. For example, I'm in zone 6B. You could easily find out which zone you are by Googling it with your zip code. And at the same time that you're doing that, just check your last and first frost date, because right now it's snowing outside. So I think approximately my growing season, I would say, to be on the safer side, would be May 5th to October 9th. And the type of garden that you would want to consider. Some of, like, I love to garden outside. Some of you may want to do indoors. Some of you may want to be, if you don't have a whole lot of yard space, or if you have a sunny area, you may want to do some container garden. So the 4 types of gardening that we'll be focusing on today is indoor, outdoor, in-ground, raised bed, and containers. So some basic vegetable growing basic is that you need full sun, 8 to 6 hours, partially shady, 2 to 4 hours, well-drained soil, and an area that's located near a water source. And here, my garden, honestly, this is just a guide. My garden, I rarely have 8 to 6 hours of sun, more so like 5 hours, but I am able to successfully grow a bountiful garden every single year, excepting for my 7th year. So here's, go ahead,
I'm
Brother
sorry, I
Scott.
think
You're muted, Brother Scott.
all right. It's an awesome thing that you brought out, because if people don't have the exact perfect focus on, the plants are adaptive, and they will kind of adjust. Certain plants will adjust. So there's no reason not to get growing. Good point.
So for your convenience, I have included a chart here that actually would identify your low sunlight plants, like 3 to 4 hours a day. And that's more, if you notice, it's more your green leafy vegetables. Your medium sunlight from 4 to 6 hours a day, like your beets, your carrots, these are roots vegetable. And your high sunlight are more your fruits, like your peppers, tomatoes, winter melon, okra, eggplant, strawberries, so on and so forth. So for roots, it's like 4 to 6 hours. Fruits, it's 6 to 8. And your leafy green is 3 to 4 hours. So your leafy green requires the least amount of sun. Your fruits require the most amount of sunlight. And a simple way to remember it is, if you need it for the fruits or the roots, you need a full sun, 6 to 8 hours. And if you're growing it for the leaf, stem, or sprout, all you need is a partial sunlight. So as every season, you have crops to grow. And I'm not sure how many of you have noticed, like during the summertime, you try to plant like a cauliflower or a broccoli, and you notice that the taste is kind of different, and it start flowering, it start attracting pests to your garden. So that's because you're growing it out of season. There is a season for everything. And here I've put together a list of your cold season crops, including your beets, your cabbage, your carrots, cauliflower, kohlrabi, lettuce, and broccoli, as well as your green onions, your peas, your radishes, your spinaches, and your turnips. Also onion and shallots. So feel free to screenshot whatever slides are up as I go along. And These produce are actually from Dr. Dana Ryan's garden 2 summers ago. These are your warm season crops like your beans, your eggplant, your melons, your peppers, your tomato, and your squash. And sometimes you could have like your pumpkins as well in there. It's more towards you plant your winter squash. And a lot of time people are mistaken because it's called winter squash. They're thinking that you should plant it in the winter time. Or the fall season. It's actually planted in a warm season.
Sister
So the
Ramona?
harvest is more towards your fall.
Sister Ramona, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I am not seeing your slides. Anyone else not seeing her slides?
We're seeing
I do see it.
them clearly.
Okay.
Slides.
Perhaps it's just me. Sorry. Go ahead,
Okay.
Sister Ramona.
Sorry about that. So now we move on to our autumn crops. And yes, it is possible to grow garlic in zone 6B, and most of us can grow garlic. We just have to identify our zone so that we can know what garlic. You have hardneck and softneck garlic, what garlic grows best in the cold season versus warmer season. So in your autumn or fall, that's the time that you can grow your beets, your Chinese cabbage, your collards, Swiss chard, kale, leeks, lettuce, and mustard. And if you notice, your fall crops can grow interchangeably with your cold crops, your spring crops. Like, for example, myself, I almost never grow mustard in the fall. Mustard is something that I do. I've grown more in the springtime. My kale, I would do that definitely fall, kale and collard. Cabbages fall because in the fall, you notice that you have less worms and insect. You could also, while you could grow them in the cold season, I think in the fall season, you tend to have less of a pest attack in your garden at that particular time. Anything to add, Brother Scott?
No, I think I think depending on where people are in North America, they're going to be a little variance, but that's a great rule. It's a general rule.
Are you saying to start planting a collard in the fall?
Okay, the questions, please hold them for after the presentation. We will take your questions after. Thank you. Sister Ramona, please go ahead.
Okay, so now that we have done some basic about gardening, we're talk about fundamentals. I'll be remiss if I didn't talk about how you can protect yourself. I've got myself injured from not wearing eyewears, or got myself in contact with poison ivy before. So and those things can be very unpleasant. And I would just want you to be safe, save your trip from the doctor's office. And so here I'm gonna go over a little how you can protect yourself. First, wear eyewear, long sleeve, long pants, appropriate footwear, cover cuts. It's very important to cover cuts, especially if it's several layers deep. And all depends upon if you're working in a sunny area, you need to wear your sunscreen. Okay, I get into trouble with my doctor every single year about the sunscreen. So they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is what poison ivy looks like. I unfortunately didn't know what it looks like. So I came in contact with it, and unfortunately I've experienced all 3 types of these rashes in just one encounter. And it took me a while, several trips to the doctor in order to get rid of it. And it's not a very pleasant experience. Here, I just want to talk about necrotizing fasciitis. Perhaps you've heard about it. It's a flesh-eating disease. It's very rare, but it's also a very serious infection. It can warrant a visit to the emergency room. You probably need IV antibiotics to get rid of it. And in some cases, if it's really bad, you'll need to go to the OR to have debridement. So please protect your cuts. Better yet, if you have a significant cut, do not garden for the period of time where the cut is probably healing. Don't want you to get infection. The other thing is know the law. Don't be like me. Shallow digging is still digging. Prior to starting out my garden, I really didn't think much about the law. I didn't really think about, where my gas lines are and, electrical lines. And so I just started digging. And as throughout the years, I start realizing that part of my garden is probably sitting over my gas line. And I don't want you to encounter that, because once you build above that, chances are you may have to uproot your garden, move along. It's the law, you can get into trouble with it. So be safe. Shallow digging is still digging. And I found out that your gas line is not as deep as it ought to be or should be. So I don't want you to get into trouble with the law. So now, as we decided to go into garden, so who say that you cannot have a full body workout from gardening? I can tell you at the end of my gardening season, I'm tired and I'm exhausted. So some of the basic tools all depends upon what you're doing, whether you're doing container garden, raised bed garden, indoor, you're definitely going to need some tools, gloves. For me, I need all of these tools and even more at times, but it helps to make life easier rather than just using your fingers.
Absolutely. Sister,
So-
I just want to inject. Those are they're so basic and they're so important. People should be, as they can, start getting those tools, start finding the tools. And there's some really neat things as you drive around and you go to one place to another, but start amassing the tools that you need while they're available. Availability for many things is very tedious. If I'm sure some of the shoppers have noticed that already with different things. Very, very important in the garden.
Yeah, and I love my water can, because if you're gonna do direct sowing, don't be like me. I've learned the hard way. I sowed my mustard and I went out there to water, didn't have a water can, and decided I was gonna use the hose. Well, guess what? My mustard sprouted everywhere else but where they were planted. So a water can is very, very important with a showerhead sprout. So now we're going to types of garden. This is actually my garden. I've experimented with in-ground, raised bed, and container gardening. And this, and as you have seen here, all three methods were very successful for me. Initially, it took a little work to get things right, but I did finally. So with container garden, there are some basic that you need to know. First, container size, the materials, drainage. Drain is very, very important because you want to prevent water loggage, which could rotten your roots, preparation, soil, and fertilizers. So for container size, I think I do have a chart here. So for your containers, as you notice here, you could do shallow roots, deep roots, but the recommendation is about 10 inches, equivalent to 3 gallons. I personally have attempted to grow vegetables like shallow roots, like my mustard and stuff, in less than 5 inches. And because the season is so short, so by the time the root reaches the maximum, you could also harvest as microgreens, and you change this from one season to another, so you'll be able to harvest and have a good crop. But don't do as I do. You can experiment, but I'm teaching you the right way, how to do things. So here is your chart if you just want to screenshot that. So the basic is 5 to 10 inches, container 5 to 10 inches, which is like a quart to 3 gallons. So let's talk about soil expansion and amendment. So one of the questions that I get a lot, how come your garden is doing so much better than mine? And what should I use as seed starting mix? Basically, if you're starting seeds indoor, your seeds already have the nutrient. So initially, you just need a seed starting mix with, I use a combination of peat moss and perlite because I don't need any nutrients to burn my seeds. the seed would already, when it's sprouted, would already produce what it needs. As they grow and they need to be transplanted, for my container garden, I do a mixture of peat moss, compost, perlites, and I usually use a good quality topsoil instead of potting soil, but you can use whatever is available for you, organic fertilizer and garden lime. So the peat moss for me is very acidic. Some of our plants like blueberries and strawberries need acidic soil. It also retains water. The potting soil just give you more. If you add peat moss and potting soil, if you add peat moss and potting soil together, you have more volume. Compost, if you are into organic compost, or you can substitute that with an organic fertilizer. I personally use leaf. In the fall, I layer my container with a 1/4 inches of brown leaves, and it produces earthworm. It's like creating an earthworm form, and then I top it off with a layer of leaves on top. But I also use perlite for good drainage, and garden lime helps neutralize the soil and add calcium. So for example, if you have a tomato that is coming up with blossom end rot, garden lime is good for that because it needs calcium. That's actually a calcium deficit in your tomatoes or your eggplants or peppers. And for the organic fertilizer, if you are doing compost, you could use that, but I personally use earthworm compost. Anything to add, Brother Scott?
The soil is key to everything, the key to success, and you've laid out a roadmap of with the compost and great potting soil, the perlite for good drainage, and lime for calcium. All those things are really, really, really important. And it will actually weigh on the success of the year, the success of that season. So very important. Screenshot that, and then try to work with that recipe. It's a good one.
So I always say, and I always believe, I'm a firm believer of this. Quality fruits does not come, or vegetable does not come from what you feed your plants, but rather what you feed your soil. And I also use the buried metal where I would dig a trench in my beds during the falls, or as I clear out with my vegetables. As I take things out, I replace things, and I would bury my food scraps into those drain and cover it over and let things decompose. Whatever you put into your garden, whatever compost you put into your garden this year would not be beneficial until the next year because things needs to break down. So don't expect to see result if you put compost this year or food scrap this year to expect to see a bountiful or your plants just being, nice and healthy this year. It takes time for things to work. So, and the other type of gardening, so majority of the time I hear, I want a garden, but I don't have space. I have a very small garden, but I'm able to do vertical garden. These are actually vegetables from my garden where I trellis up. Instead of having things run on the ground and take over space, you're actually space savers if you just do them on trellises, on fence, and you increase airflow into your garden, you decrease pests, you decrease powdery mildew on your squash and your eggplants and stuff like that. So the benefit, let's talk now about companion planting. And this is basically plant that benefits other plants. They bring beneficial insects to your garden and they help to pollinate and give you bountiful harvests. Without your bees, you probably wouldn't get much of a harvest. Or much of vegetables. You would have to go out there and do artificial pollination. And I have done that in the past as well. So companion plants are very important. It's a very important component of garden as well. It complements one another. It attracts insects that protect the plants as well. Act as a bug repellent. Say, for example, a good combination of companion planting is with tomatoes. I almost never plant my tomatoes without basil and marigold. Basil enhances flavor, marigold repels bugs. Basil also works as a wonderful pesticide if you plant with your Swiss chard. It eliminates your white flies. It's a natural support. If you do corn, you could use it as a trellis for your beans. It also increases your plant health, because some plants will deplete your soil from nitrogen, whereas other plants would replete nitrogen to your soil. It also prevents weeds. It works as a barrier, and it just regulates your shades. All depends upon, and sometimes you could just look at your garden from a distance, just try to be observant. What angle do you have more sun and less sun? Where do you have your shaded? Where can you plant your shaded plants? So you want a trellis where you have, or even if you don't have an area where there's much shade, you plant your tall plants so that they could block the sun from getting to your leafy greens. And it also optimizes your soil health. Any question, Brother Scott? Any comments?
Well, I like I like the comment of using your tall plants to create shade for the plants that really don't like all that sun, and even using the corn for beans. Great natural trellis. Not to spend any money for your indeterminate beans, to use your corn to let that happen. It makes for a fun garden when you can do things like that.
Yeah. So here is an example of companion plants. Like here in my garden, I did my cherry tomatoes with basil and marigold. And I didn't have any pests. I rarely do. But as a gardener, I inspect my garden a lot. I'm frequently in my garden, morning and afternoon. I look at things, but this has been beneficial for me. Also, I've put a chart here with some of your companion plants that you can use to grow. And you have coriander. It's an herb, but it also repels aphids in your carrot flies. You see here, marigold also repels aphids from your beans and your tomatoes as well. You also have herbs pairing. You could do your dill and your cilantro, sage and rosemary. And some of these herbs are actually perennials. You plant them once and they'll come back year after year. And you can just put them in pots, put them in different areas in your garden if you don't have space, or just put them in a corner next to your vegetables that is more prone to diseases. So you can also, for plants that bring pollinators like your bees and your worm, you can also use these companion plant. The majority of them are edibles, and I just put a list up here or a chart to show how you can use it in terms of edible use. So they're not just to bring beneficial pollinators to your garden and to repel pests, but they're also edible.
Something else, the flowers really accent certain dishes really, really well. And that's a fun thing with using them. The flavors from some of the flowers and the textures and the colors, really nice to blend those into different places on the plate.
And remember, I spoke earlier about companion planting, and here we are. And in terms of how you replenish your soil by rotating, and it's called the rotation method. And we have 3 benefits in crop rotation. 1, it prevents diseases, it interrupts your pest cycle, and it reduces soil depletion. Remember, I spoke earlier about certain plants will fix nitrogen in your soil preparation for the next group, and that those are called legumes, like your beans and your peas. They would fix the nitrogen depletion in your soil. For your leafy vegetables, they need high amount of nitrogen in the soil. So you'd want to rotate where you did your legumes. You may want to do your lettuce and your greens and your broccoli and so on and so forth. So if you want, you could probably screenshot this for later use in your garden. And now we come to the section where we talk about taking care of your church. This is something that we often neglect, and majority of the time I would hear people say, well, I don't have space in my yard and I can't grow a garden. It is useless to grow a garden. So I want you to take a look whenever you're at church, look to see whatever you have going on in your churchyard. Do you have space for a garden, a vegetable garden, a flower garden? And this should be voluntarily, like this is my churchyard, or used to be what my churchyard used to look like. I just showed up with my elderly mom, and I thank God for help in everything. Showed up one day, and my churchyard wasn't looking the greatest. We got there, we start pruning things, start planting things, and before you know it, there's so much life in the yard again. This is a task that not very many people wants to take on, but once you take this task on, everybody else wants to join in. People wants to share, they want to, you can use voluntary method. Please don't go harass your pastor for funds to do the garden. Just donate what you can in your yard. You may want to get flowers. You may buy a pack of bulbs in the fall time. This is your church. If you don't take care of your church, who else do you expect to take care of it? No one else will, right? So be kind, do a nice thing, start a project in your church, get volunteer. It's your church. Let your church defines you, okay? You're planting flowers for Jesus. And here we are. Not only the church, if your church comes with a school, please take care of your school as well. I know soon it will be April and the kids will start thinking about science project. It would be nice to give them a packet of seed, a nice container. They can do it at home, do it indoors, and Brother Scott would expand a little more on indoor gardening, so the kids could teach them how to do organic garden and put the futures of food in their hand. Teach them how to do little things. Don't give them a tomato seed and, have them to wait 5 months in order to reap a tomato. Give them something simple like a mustard seed or, snow peas or some strawberries where they could actually go out and almost instant gratification, just have the joy of seeing things growing and reaping it. Before they lose interest. Also, another way we can redesign our curriculum in our school so that our kids could get more involved. Teach them how to plant flowers as well. And now I hand you over to our gardening expert, Mr. Spencer Scott.
Thank you, Ramona.
Wow.
Before Brother Scott comes on, I'm wondering if at this juncture, because you have said a lot, both you and Brother Scott, if we can field some questions, and then after that, we can move on to you, Brother Scott. Would that be okay with you?
Sounds great.
All right. So we have some questions in the chat, and if you have a question, raise your hand and we will respond. So we could stop the screen sharing and get on to some questions. Okay. Let me start off with some questions in the chat. And I see here, how do those produce normally grow if you didn't trellis them?
Okay, if I did not trellis them, they would grow on the ground, just like wild vines. Those plants are naturally grown on the soil. They just run wild.
Good. Next question. How do you protect plants from squirrels?
Personally, I have a bird bath in my garden. And whenever the squirrel comes into my garden, the bird kind of attacks them. I've had to fence my garden. I I I'm tired chasing squirrel. I would stand at my window and I'll make noise, I'll do everything. And finally I don't do compost in the garden like a compost bin. I buried everything, did everything possible. So I've come to the conclusion God created all of us. Instead of planting 3 tomato plants, I go 4, sometimes 5, enough for all of us. But it's very frustrating when
And
you,
us meaning you and the squirrel.
yes,
Mm.
Brother Scott,
it
yes.
is very frustrating when you're looking at a tomato and you're like, okay, tomorrow it will be perfect. I'm gonna go out there and grab it, and you go out in the garden and it's gone, or it's partially eaten, and you're like, oh my God, the frustration, the frustration. So
If you know, if you have space enough, you can plant things to keep the squirrels busy. Seed crops will help to keep them busy. Sunflowers sprout early. The mammoth ones, they sprout early in a lot of places where it's cold. And they will mature right around the time some other things are maturing. But try to, because they're tough. They're tough. They climb. They're excellent climbers. They'll climb fences. The squirrels are just they're amazing. But
You
try
know,
to keep them busy with some other things to eat, except the
I
wonderful things we're.
I pray for them. Sometimes, and where I am, there are some like acorns, some big acorn trees, and they tend to like that. So they would prefer
Nice.
that than my crops. So, and I pray for them. There was one time when the rabbits were coming to attack my plants, and I prayed, and they move away. I don't know where they went, but they move. All right, let's get another question. How do you protect squash from squash bugs?
from, okay, this happened to me several years ago, and by experimenting, I tend to wrap my vine with aluminum foil, and then I have the diatomaceous earth that I sprinkle around the roots. And it's inspection, inspection, inspection. You have to constantly go into your garden, remove the bottom leaves, inspect your vine. And then there is, at every node, you could actually, what I found out, you could actually create secondary roots by planting the nodes into the soil. So I would do that before I trellis. I would do several nodes planted. So if they attack the first one, at least the vine can still survive with the second and the third. But I've only learned that from being in my garden and experimenting.
Experiential knowledge.
Mhm.
Brother
Yeah.
Scott, anything to add to that? Or you,
I like the point of just the inspection. Sometime you're going to have to pick them off. You're going to have to get active, especially if your garden is not big. You're
Yeah.
going to have to get active in picking those guys off. There are organic insecticides that there's a blend of azazole and pyrethrum, and they will do the work. It's a contact spray. Those are some things you can try, but it's always nicer to be an active gardener and try to keep up with them.
yeah, yeah. And once we're living in a sinful world, that's what we have to deal with: sin and disease and pests. All right, let's take some live questions. And by the way, be brief, 30 seconds or mostly a minute to ask your questions, and we'll give you a chance. We have someone named, and please put your correct name so we could address you well. This will be recorded and placed on our YouTube channel so that you can see it maybe in a couple of days. But there's somebody named here is Persona non deserdiravit. I kind of butcher your name, but go ahead, please.
That's okay, thanks. A couple of things.
Speak up a little louder.
Suggested reading.
Can hardly hear you. Can hardly hear you. All right.
Suggested reading.
No, it's if you can speak up a little louder, or we will have to move on.
Would you like me to yell?
No,
Okay,
I could hear you better now, though.
excellent. suggested reading, and for the tech guy, is the chat going to be downloaded?
We will place the recording on the YouTube to make it available to you. And suggestive reading, let's find out from our presenters. Any suggestive reading?
For what specific area?
Sorry, that's not me. Consider beginners. This is my first time here. I was invited by one of your constituents. And
Okay.
so I'm looking at, from the beginning to the end. If you have a book list already prepared, if you can upload that. And then back to the tech question, is the tech guy going to save the chat?
We don't really publicize or share the chats. We will share the recording on YouTube. Brother Spencer, you have a website.
If you check our website, unstoppablegardening.com, we have some ebooks that are coming on for beginners. In fact, they'll probably be loaded on within the next couple weeks or so. So come to the site unstoppablegardening.com, and we'll be able to have some tools for you there.
So unstoppablegarden.com.
Gardening.com.
We could put that in the chat, please, so our sister can see that. And thank you for the question. Let's go to Hope. You're welcome. Let's go to Hope Smith.
Yes, I just wanted to know what types of fruits or vegetables would you recommend if we were starting a garden like now? We're kind of in between winter and spring. So I'm ready to get going, but I want to make sure that I plant something that would be appropriate for the season.
Okay, for this season, it's more, you really can't plant anything right now, but you can start some seed in the house for your summer garden. And as soon as your soil is workable, like when you notice like the tulips or the grass start coming about, it would be like your lettuce, your snow peas, your green onions, you can probably put in right now. And I think I have a list that is there. We can probably go back and look at that.
I did do a screenshot, so I will look at that. My apologies.
Perfect.
That's already on there.
Yes.
Thank
So
you very
those are
much.
those are the cool season crops that you could get ready to plant. Now, as soon as you see things start popping up, that's when you start putting your getting ready for your cold season.
All right.
Even
Thank
carrots
you.
would probably
You're
work.
welcome.
Sis.
Brother Spencer?
I was thinking even carrots would probably, if the
Carrots.
soil is workable.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Hope. Appreciate it. Let's go to Candice. Go right ahead, Candice.
Hello. I just wanted to know if I can get a screenshot of the it was a picture before, I think it was you guys were talking about soil. And it had like a title headed as soil. I wanted to see if I can get that screenshot of that, and also a screenshot of the plants that we can grow now for the warm and cool season.
All right.
Went a little too fast.
So here what will happen. When you go to the YouTube, you'll be able to view everything again, and you can even take a screenshot there. In a couple, maybe tomorrow or so, we'll have it on the YouTube channel, and you can, I think the link is there. All right. Would that help?
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Vivian. Go ahead, Vivian.
Hi, my mom and I, every year we have a lot of gardening and we do very, very well. But one of the problems we face is our collard green, which lasts very long, even in the winter. There's these little white bugs that are under the bottom of it. And last year it got so worse that I had to cut, and I keep cutting them off, and I'm losing a lot of our crops. So I'm trying to find out exactly what can we do so that we can reap a lot more collard greens than we were reaping before. And one more thing before I go, I learned this from my friend during the winter, and we got our scraps we blend it with a lot of water and we throw it all over the garden. And last year we experimented with it and all our crops came much bigger than before because the snow and everything soaks it in the garden. But I'd like to find out what to do about the bugs because I can't get rid of them.
One of the things that I usually use, and this is from experimenting, just the regular flour, the white flour that you have in the store, like if you have the cabbage worms or the collard greens, you just sprinkle it lightly. When those insects would ingest that, it actually acts as a binder in their intestine, and so it gets rid of them. The diatomaceous earth is another thing that I usually would use, and sometimes I'll go lightly with some neem. But another thing to prevent pests, like at the end of my season, I always treat my soil with neem oil. Like I give it a hefty dose of neem, especially if I know if I planted stuff like squash or any types of greens that attracts like worms or flies. At the end, I turn over my soil and then I would do a hefty thing of the neem oil and just let it sit there before I cover it with my my leaves.
So I spray it on the neem oil on the plant?
Yes, I usually do it if you're gonna do it on the plants, because sometimes neem is bitter, so you don't want to do it on the leaf as much. You use it at the base, so it would take care of that.
And that would kill the eggs also?
That would kill the eggs also. Nasturtium is another insect, and it seems like it's more like aphids, maybe that you're referring to. The aphids would be attracted to nasturtium, with this nasturtium, which is a companion plant that you could probably use there. Brother Scott, any idea, any other suggestions?
I like the diatomaceous earth. I would apply it, hydrate the diatomaceous earth and add a little bit of organic soap to it and spray it under the leaf. Now, you want it to dry, but stick to the plant. And when you apply it like that, it keeps it in place. And then for any soft-bodied insect, it's going to be like glass for them to be on. That's something that you can try. Otherwise, a thrip screen with hoops. If you plant your collard greens in a particular area, put hoops around them, around that area, and then use a fine when screen, tuck it into the soil, and do that when you start the plants and as they grow. And when the insects start coming, they won't be able to gain access to it. Thrip screen is going to be fine enough to block out almost anything that's going to get close.
Right.
That's another way of approaching it.
All right. So let me say this here. A number of you have already joined the GGG planting, God's Gardening. What's it again? God's Gardening Grow Group. God's Gardening Grow Group, the GGG, a WhatsApp group where you can get your questions answered, even throughout the year. I know Brother Scott will come on there sometimes and answer your question. Ramona will come on there and answer your question. So join the group today. And then you can go back and listen to this presentation on the Northeastern Conference Health Ministries YouTube channel. All right, let's take A.G. Gray. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. You talk about calcium for you. I'm a small backyard gardener, and you talk about calcium. And what I did and continue to do is to when I use eggs, I put the eggshells in the oven, I bake it a little, and then I put it in my blender and flour it. And then I use it and sprinkle it in my garden. Would you suggest me continuing doing this for the calcium?
If this works for you, then go ahead by all means and use it.
Yes, I think it works for me. So
Okay.
I try not to waste the eggshells.
Amen.
So I use it in the garden.
You're doing well, sis. Thanks for sharing
Excellent.
that.
Excellent.
Let's go
Okay,
to-
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go to Yvonne Williams. Yvonne, go ahead.
Hi, this is Yvonne's husband. My name is also Spencer, by the way. Great name.
Awesome.
The issue that we're having, we live in a high desert, and it gets extremely cold and it gets extremely hot here. And we've tried several different methods of trying to grow fruit trees, particularly lemon and oranges. The peaches and plums are fine for the most part. We don't have a problem with that growing. Our fruit trees, our lemons and our orange trees, they grow to a certain point and then they stop growing, but they never produce any fruit. And this is our second year with these lemons and orange trees. We tried planting them in the ground. We tried planting them in the pot. We changed the soil. We dug, we've done everything that we can think of to do, but they're not producing any fruit whatsoever. And also, they only grow to a certain point and then they stop growing.
Brother Scott?
Citrus has a different balance, a different soil balance that it's going to need. Also, throughout the season, when you first plant that tree, I don't know the method that you're using, but if you want to put as much food around that tree as possible. But as it goes through that first year, you want to push it, you want to fertilize it probably about at least 3 times during the first year. That's going to stimulate the woody growth. That's what nitrogen does. And then the same thing for the second year. You really don't want that tree fruiting too quickly. And as it goes through the next year, if it's moving along well, it's gaining size, etc. When it comes time to flower and you after post blossom, you should be getting fruit. If you're not, there's a few ways to address that. Leaf samples can be sent to a couple different laboratories to identify what's missing in the soil. And typically that's the problem with plants. If they don't have the nutrients, and it could be a micronutrient, if they don't have it, they're not going to either abort the fruit process or they won't fruit at all. So your answer more than likely is going to be a deficiency in the soil. But in terms of size and growth stopping, you've got to make sure you have a good fertilization program for that tree.
Okay. We've spent now an hour. We will do for another half an hour. We want to take these questions very briefly, and Brother Scott has a presentation to give you. Some of your question might be answered there. While he is presenting, we'll ask Ramona to go in the chat and see if she could respond to some of the questions in the chat there. But we'll take Brother Rasheen. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I got a quick matter of advice in regards to squirrels. If chicken wire is staked into the ground, it'll keep squirrels from digging up bulbs, like tulip bulbs. And also, too, my question is this here. In the Bible, there's 6 years of growth, and then there's a Sabbath year where, there's no growing in the soil. Would you suggest, is that a part of the gardening method? And then also too, if we get detailed, and a person does it long enough, there's a 50th year, which would be a Jubilee year. It seems that should be a part of the approach to gardening and just counting on God to bring forth enough in the 6th year to cover the 7th year.
Brother Rasheen, I'm so glad you said that. I do practice resting my land every 7th year. Last year was my 7th year. And in the types of garden where I say container garden, I use the laundry basket with the trash bag, and I planted in container garden. So on the 7th year, I rest my soil. And I look at a different method, which was the container garden with the trash bag in, I have to say I had a bountiful harvest and whatever. So I do believe in resting my land on the 7th-year Bible principle.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
All right. So Brother Scott, we have a little challenge here, and it seems like people are interacting well with the answer to the questions. I know you have a well-prepared presentation. So let me ask you, what do you want to do? Do you want to present, or do you want to first respond to the questions?
I'm wide open. I'm wide open.
Part
the
three,
questions
part
are
three.
being answered. This program is for the growers in the Northeastern Conference. We want to respond to the questions. We want to push you along, move you along in your growing and what you're doing. So that's our whole purpose of being here. I can present anytime.
So let's do the questions, because that's what's on their mind. And then as we have some more time, you can probably give some highlights of your presentation, right? So because I mentioned that Sister Ramona can respond to some of your questions in the chat, but then a good point was raised that if she does that, then in the recording, they would not get the benefit to view the answer. So I'll jump into the chat and ask some questions. But in the meantime, let's take one more hand that is raised, and then I'll go into the chat. Teresa Sarata, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, brother. I just put my question further in the chat, but I'm in Southern California, and I am considering putting large containers in. I have a very good space that gets a lot of sun. Very grateful for that. And I would like to know, I'm curious whether it's okay to do a Rubbermaid plastic container. I also have the option of doing the metal containers as well that look like big horse troughs. So I'm not sure which one, either one of those are better. I do have a terrible little critter in my backyard that's tearing up the backyard right now. So a gopher who's now moved to my front yard, and he's just making holes everywhere. So I know if I plant anything in the ground, it's going to be to no avail. I'll be feeding him and making him happy. So should I be concerned about those plastic containers and what they're made of?
I have some metal containers in my garden, and I love them very much. The longevity is, awesome. And what I would do for the gophers, when I initially put my bin down, I use the chicken wire at the bottom, because the roots can go through that, but the gophers cannot come up, even though I don't have that problem, but just to be on the safer side. And then I use the metal bin over. Sometimes the plastic containers, if it gets really, really hot, it can create so much heat for the root system and actually burn your root. I don't know if Brother Scott have any experience with that. But my mixture in container with peat moss, sometimes it's a good water retention, but it also dries out if you don't water it as often.
Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
When you're planting in containers in Southern California, you guys have a tremendous amount of heat. So choose the largest containers that you can. And you also want to make sure that they're going to be UV stable. A lot of the Rubbermaid products are not, but there's a lot of landscape pots that you can get in a 30 gallon and larger that are going to have that UV stability to be able to not break down in the sun. But because of the high heat that you have, you want as large of a pot as you can use, just specifically for what she mentioned. So the roots if the roots overheat, it'll stop your growth and you'll kill your plants.
Okay. I was considering the Rubbermaid over the metal. I would think maybe the metal would get too hot, and I'd have to water more often. But if the Rubbermaid's going to get just as hot, and they are very large containers, so they're going to be large as in the height of them. And I was going to put, with the logs underneath and, the mulch, the leaves, so that way I don't have to fill it as much with as much dirt. So I hope I'm on the right track.
Yep.
You are on the right track.
Thank you, sister and brothers.
Good job. Thanks for
You're
calling
welcome.
all the way from California. I'm heading your direction tomorrow morning early. Loma Linda.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I'd like to tune in tomorrow. What time tomorrow?
Oh, tomorrow I'll be in Loma Linda.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Oh, I thought you were going to tune in for another video. Okay, no, this
Oh,
is
no,
wonderful.
no.
Thank you. And I shared with a lot of my friends throughout the states, and they're tuning in as well.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Question in the chat. How do I enrich my soil during the winter months so that it is ready for planting in the spring? Love this question.
So what I usually do, I do the trench method in terms of composting. Throughout my season, as I remove stuff, I would make a trench in my soil and I'll do my food scrap. I'll ground some of my leaves. I live next to a park, so I have access to leaves. And I'll mulch my leaves and I'll put them in the bed, cover my bed. And on top, as I clear off, I'll do a mulch my bed on top with my shredded leaf. And that actually created a bed for earthworms. So I don't mix the soil, the leaves into my soil. And I just layer it and the earthworm does the work for me.
This question is for you, Brother Scott. Do you provide hands-on training?
We do. We will have some seminars this year. We'll have some hands-on opportunities this year that people can come and they can learn. Stay in touch with us on our website. We'll be listing those times far ahead of the season.
And again, the website is unstoppablegardening.com. All right. Okay, we take one more question from the chat here. Why does my corn always fail the first one? The squirrel ate them all. Well, it's like two questions here. Why does my corn always fail? And then the first one, the squirrel ate them all. So her corn is failing. And she had an experience, I guess, with squirrel eating out her corn. I had that experience too. I got so, I stopped planting corn.
I don't plant corn because of that. But they're heavy feeders. I believe corn are heavy feeders, so you have to replenish your soil. And you have to protect your corn from the squirrel. I'm not sure if your garden is fenced, and I think garlic could probably be a companion plant because garlic tends to repel squirrels.
All right. Some folks give some advice here, and they say chicken wire staked into the ground is good to keep squirrels from digging up the bulbs. Another person says mint sometimes keep the squirrels away. Now a question, this is for you, I guess, Ramona, how do we do vertical gardening? You mentioned it, but maybe very briefly again, how do you do vertical gardening?
So it doesn't matter what methodology you use, whether it's in-ground, raised bed, or container, you just trellis it up. As the vines start growing and started to grow, you can use pole, you can use a fence, you can move if it's container, just move it next to a fence and you trellis it up. So you just have to train it to go up. And once it gets bearing, like your cucumbers, whatever, it will grow where you train it to grow.
Yeah. And for me, I don't have a lot of skills, but I have a good friend who is good at building stuff. And he came by me and he built some nice trellis for me, permanent stuff that could last for a long time.
Yeah.
So you may want to invest, or if you have someone who could help you out too, if you can't do it by yourself. Now, someone asked a question and the answer is also given. How do you protect your garden from groundhogs eating your vegetables? And somebody said, I found spraying with garlic water helps. I don't know if you want to add to that. Groundhogs.
I've never had an issue with groundhogs, but I fence my garden. There is a gate, and I kind of use like mint and marigolds, and there is always garlic, green onions, and stuff like that repels.
All right. And in terms of reading, someone is suggesting that Ellen White has some good stuff on reading, and you can check Ellen White's stuff on reading. Can apartment gardening start now? And that was your presentation, Brother
That
Scott.
was Brother
Indoor.
Scott presentation, indoor.
Maybe answer this question if you could. Can apartment gardening, and this is a lot of people in New York City, especially, you know, they're coming from a Caribbean background or warmer background, and they love to plant also, and they want to still feel that experience of planting, and they're living in an apartment. Help them out, Brother Scott. Can apartment gardening start now?
Yeah, you can certainly plant indoors. You can plant indoors all year round. So that can begin at any point that you choose. If you have a balcony, a little too cold for that, but you can be getting things ready for the outdoor. But for indoor, there's a lot of options for doing things indoors. A lot of options.
You're on
You're
mute.
muted.
Dr. Dernarine, you're muted.
Okay, the question here is, what does the moon have to do with gardening, or is that nonsense? Coming from Veronica.
No, it does have a bit to do because of the full moon, and usually the almanac will have discussion about planting on the full moon. There's extra light at night when the moon is full and it's going through that waning or the waxing. So there is, in the gravity pull that the moon has, it has significance in the growing situation. It gives plants more time at night in growing. So yeah, there's a little bit to it.
All right. I think at about this time, it's like 15 minutes to the hour, and it's not going to be fair for us not to have Brother Scott. Brother Scott, take it away. I'm sorry we can't answer all your questions. Again, join the gardening group that we have on WhatsApp. You can place some of your questions there, and we will do our best. We try to do this within an hour and a half. That's the time, most of us have to invest in this training. So, Brother Scott, I know it's going to be tough on you. You have like 15 minutes, but do your best.
Is there a number somebody can call in? I have questions. A number someone to call in?
No, we don't have a number you can call in. We are pausing the questions now because we've been here for about an hour, 15 minutes. And we have Brother Scott who is going to present now. But you can put your questions in the chat. And the best thing is you can join the GG group. The link will be there. And we can answer some of your questions there even after the program is finished.
In Genesis chapter 8, the Lord left this promise for us, that while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. That's only important. That only has significance to certain persons. Let's move. Let's talk about how to take this container garden that's viewed here to the inside of your home. There's 6 elements that we need to consider when you want to grow a garden indoors. There's light, heat, water, insect control, plant nutrition, and pollination. You can begin your indoor grow before your outdoor grow ends by taking pots and planting some of your favorites in pots and putting them in, and then later transferring those into other pots inside the house. So we'll keep just as you see in that photograph. Next one. Now, there are a lot of different choices of plants that you can do indoors and be very successful with it. As a matter of fact, the mini peppers are a good one indoor. Any idea why? The reason why is because they're self-pollinating, and many of the plants that are self-pollinating, they're great choices for indoors. Now, if the plant is climbing, it's going to require some solutions for inside if you want to grow cucumbers, for instance, or other plants. They require a lot of space. Pruning will have to happen. This happens to be a painted serpent cucumber, but you see in the greenhouse there where I have it, it's almost at the ceiling, and that's really, really high. But you can do plants that do grow. Now, when it comes to your tomatoes, either determinate or indeterminate tomatoes, that's going to depend on how much space, if you have an atrium, etc. In the foreground is an heirloom tomato, and they certainly require more room. Aside from it, on the floor of the greenhouse there, those are all indeterminate in that particular area. So make your choices on your tomatoes when you're growing inside. Now, lighting there's two basic categories when you're providing lighting, and you'll have to do makeup lighting for plants, especially when you're growing indoors. There's lighting for vegetative growth and lighting for full spectrum or flowering or plants that are fruiting. Now, using an LED light, the distance from the fixture to the plant, it's going to change between different light choices. LED 24 to 36 inches above the plant canopy with a seedling, 12 to 24 inch in a vegetative stage. Now, when that term is used, no flowers, leaves only, those would be your greens, your lettuce, etc., a little closer distance. During the flowering stage, you're going to pull that light up a bit so that it covers the whole canopy of the plant. Now, fluorescent will give you a cool white light, one that gives you a high output. There's LED will do the same with a full spectrum, high output. Both of them are fairly economical on the electric bill, maybe LED even more so, but there's a trade-off there. Because light is so essential for plant growth, it governs a process of photosynthesis, which allows plants to create the simple sugars that it needs to move through the xylem of the plant. It's called the phloem, but it's very, very critical. Now, when you have lights too far off your plants, they're not going to receive enough light, and you've seen that by putting plants in the windowsill, and they're stretching, trying to find the light, and they get leggy and weak and so forth. So your light distance from your plants are going to be very, very important when you're using light fixtures. Now, the next in here with a fluorescent, you see that for vegetative growth, 6 inches off the plant is ideal. 20 inches as they start to get more distance, and up to 3 feet once the plants really start growing and really getting strong. This would have to be a high output. Now, light burn this happens more often with your LED lights. It will burn a plant just and just stop growth completely. So you really want to be careful of the distance that the light sets from the plants to make sure that they're not getting too hot. And you can gauge that as you go if you're active with your plants. The windowsill works out as a great one for lettuce, for doing lettuce inside the house, because they grow quickly. They're in a cup, but you can have some fresh greens that way. Now, the T5 fixtures, this happens to be an example of 4 of the T5 fixtures in a 4-foot array for doing lettuce inside the house. This is the dedicated area and space, but you can have greens, you can have herbs. There's basil to the back, and then lettuce at different stages in between, and then lettuce that's ready to go at the very front, and spinach. So it is possible to grow inside and to do very, very, very well. Like with the LED lighting, 16 hours on, 8 hours off. For the plants as they're younger, 18 on, 6 hours off as the plant starts getting older, and then 12 on and 12 off as the plant starts getting more and more mature. So the light won't be on all day long with the plants. Now, the Vivalsun T5 grow lights are a good choice. Their reviews are excellent. They're going to run you for a 4-foot fixture about $194 if they're bundled, maybe down to $177. So you can shop that with a with a cool white, that's a 54 watt, 6500K cool watt, and a high output fluorescent tube and bulbs. Great choice for the indoor grower that was identified in one of the last pictures. Now, heat is very important. The soil temperatures, if they're maintained at a 65 to 70 degree, your plants are going to do far, far better. Heat mats are available in different configurations. You can even get creative with heat mats, but heat is going to be very important for the root zone. This shows a full floor hydronics, and hydronics is something that you can pull from the building sector, and you can bring that into a greenhouse sector or even with plants if you have a larger area. Just giving an example of that. There's an area with this picture that's not correct is because the heater like that, if it's a radiator, it's only going to control ambient temperature. It surely won't be enough to do the work that you need. Great thinking, but it's one that's not going to give you what you need. A hydronic system that's going to go in floor kind of looks like the picture that is in the smallest one there, with a water tank, closed system, filtration, and it's moving through the floor. It's a closed loop, so it doesn't burn a lot of energy, but they work very well. Water is going to be essential to your plants. It's an essential element, and it's a very structural element because plants are 80 to 90% water. The root zone is the mechanism that God has designed for plants to take up water. And if you're watering, and it's the only way that nutrients are solubilized is through the water. So if you're irregular on your watering, you're going to be irregular on your plant feeding and your plants uptaking nutrients. Very, very critical that your watering cycles are on target. When it comes to plant nutrition, which is very, very key, most of your plant failures are because of deficiencies. Now, in today's organic market, a greater percentage of fertilizer choices are derived from slaughterhouse byproducts or modified human waste. You say modified human waste. Yep, in Washington, D.C., they have a thermal hydrolysis plant that brings the biosolids to a category of compost that is unidentifiable in most garden bagged products because now it's been heated to high temperatures. But there is a push to get human waste into your garden, and it's moving along. Because of the high numbers of animals that are destroyed every year, and this statistic comes from the 2022, millions and millions of cattle, hogs, chickens, turkeys, et cetera, that are slaughtered every year. Their byproducts are sitting on the shelves typically of most of your nursery centers. As you walk into your nursery centers, from the high amount of blood meal, bone meal from cattle, you're going to see that, for instance, in the next, I think it's the next slide, that gives an example. On the top shelf is blood meal. Very dangerous to use in your garden. But veganic gardening is one that we focus on. Organic does not necessarily mean healthy as it relates to products to be added into your garden. As we continue on, the best fertilizers, veganic, and they should be plant-based. And why is that? Is because of the disease vector. The best garden soil is going to be garden soil that has no slaughterhouse byproducts in it. And the reason why is because of disease transfer. The prions, it takes years for prions to break down, and they don't, and many do not. You can contact us at info@Unstoppable Gardening. That's info@Unstoppable Gardening, or call us toll free at 1-800-563-7681. We carry a full line of OMRI certified organic plant-based amino acid-based fertilizers. They are dry powdered. They are chelated for drip systems, et cetera, but you can reach us. We can satisfy those areas and help you in those regards. Now, when we talk about insect control is critical because of the war when you're gardening. And insect control also lends itself to a few other things, but I'll get into that. The woolly aphid is one that's a kind of a tough customer to deal with because of the wool that he puts on the body to throw off some of the sprays that are applied. But because they're a soft-bodied insect, remember diatomaceous earth is a great tool. Powdered diatomaceous earth, you want to be more careful about using it because it's dangerous to breathe it in. Make sure you use your PPE. Remember, Sister Ramona went through the what to wear to protect yourself in the garden, but spray the underside of the leaves. And you have to get a sprayer that's going to actually position itself to be able to give you a wand that'll do that. But diatomaceous earth will stop them cold as you apply it in a liquid fashion. Leaf miners, basically when you change the meal that they're eating to where it's distasteful, you can stop insects very, very quickly. And there's a lot of home items that you can use. But insect control has to go as far as the point of your pollinators. When you're gardening, you want to make sure that in the morning, if you're spraying fertilizer, and that's the best way again to put it on is through a foliar rather than a ground application. Make sure that you spray early before the sun comes up and the flowers start opening and the bees come out. And hard insecticides in your garden, I'm sure most of you are not using those because those also have been key to declining bee populations in a lot of areas. And as we move on, we see also that population decline is noted in bumblebees in a tremendous way. Bumblebees are one bee that will actually work in a greenhouse. The other bees won't. So they're a very important bee in enclosed spaces, but they will nest in holes in the ground. They'll nest in barns, et cetera, but very, very good friend to have around. Now, when you're monitoring your insect control, a good one is the cinnamon that you see there. Cinnamon works for ant, dealing with ants. It also has other uses in the garden that you can use for it. And as we keep our pace here, when it comes to, we talked about, Sister Ramona talked about companion planting, which is very, very important. And companion plantings will keep you out of the danger zone with slugs and snails. Phlox, marigold, various things will work very, very well to dissuade them. Thyme and chervil and astibia, phlox and mint, very good choices. So planting in the wintertime, growing in the wintertime, microgreens are a must-do because of the quick, it's in a 10-day to 12 to maybe 14-day cycle, even faster, depending on what type of microgreen you choose. So to age well, you have to eat well. Microgreens are a great choice for eating well and also giving you that grow during the winter. So the benefits of learning to grow food indoors with stellar nutrient value, it's going to be microgreens, microgreens, microgreens. As we keep moving and keep our pace going here, microgreens, in fact, contain 40 times the nutritional punch as their fully grown counterparts. So if it's cabbage or kale or collard greens or spinach or any of the watercress, any of those, 40 times the value of that same plant when it becomes mature. The microgreens have it in their fashion. Day 1 through 4, for instance, with sunflower, it takes day 1 through 4 for them to hydrate. Next, after day 5 comes around, you'll start seeing the seed coat split, the root coming out, and when day 6, as you move the sprouting is even more denoted. Day 7, it just continues. Day 8, it's almost ready. Between day 8 and 9 and 10, you're ready to eat them. So sprouts do really, really well. Microgreens do really, really well in the garden. You can even do moringa if you choose in an enclosed space at home. Put it in pots. Moringa, the leaves are great, et cetera, but in your garden, know who your friends are. And you may not identify them, but the praying mantis is a wonderful insect to have in the garden. It's very voracious. It's carnivorous, so it enjoys a lot of different bugs and insects. Next to it is the lacewing. Excellent choice, excellent insect to have in the garden. Now, also, you can tint areas with fine mesh that I talked about earlier, and you can purchase these from a couple different companies. Arabica Organics will sell them. There's some other companies that sell larger amounts, but also know how they overwinter. Now, those are lacewing eggs. If you learn a little bit about the insects and how it overwinters, you can be able to protect its habitat so that they stay around and they stay within your garden. The Lord mentioned that I will command blessings upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth the fruit of 3 years. Our brother asked about this. Does it have its place in garden? Absolutely it does. And the reason why is because we must learn how to preserve the food that we grow. 3 years of product. Anybody have a pantry that big to hold 3 years of product? If you're growing, it's one we must put into the computer. Canning, drying, dehydrating, those are ways of doing. As we keep going, we'll see that also when it comes to preserving food, that the tools are going to be ones that we're going to have to make sure that you apply, but to get them while they're available. Very, very key. Matthew chapter 19 and verse 17, neither do men put new wine in old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine in new bottles, and both are preserved. Investing in quality products is key to preserving the value of the food and the time you spend. And safe storage is equally important. We got to think we must think those things through. Home canning, water bath method, or boiling water, or canning in hot water is one of the easiest ways of doing for high acid foods, tomatoes and pickles and jams and jellies and sauerkrauts and preserves and some fruits. Pressure canning, a little more involved, but great for low acid vegetables, okra, carrots, green beans, etc. Dehydrating fruits and vegetables, freeze drying, canning, and curing. Now, curing is no more than with your garlic and onion and drying those things down outside, and as well as some of the other things that you grow. Vacuum sealing is a dynamic tool to be able to use. Great to invest in one that also you can do liquids, not the little small things that you're going to get in various stores, but they have some large square ones that you can do. Your vacuum is a lot better to remove the oxygen from it. Now, root cellaring also is another one, to be able to create a root cellar to be able to keep foods for longer, and that's been done for a long time. Smoking, even though people are smoking vegetables and so forth, I'm not really going to subscribe to that one, because the smoke itself is one of the things that creates carcinogens. Cleveland Clinic has a article that kind of weighs in on smoking and smoking products, even though vegetables are smoked a lot for their flavor. And of course, meats are, but we don't do that. Next, as we keep going, any questions? I've flown through that one. I don't know where we are on the clock, but we can pause there.
Yes. Thank you, Brother Scott. That was excellent. I'm glad that you're able to present that. You put a lot of work into that. And for those who want more information, the website, the information is there. You can check with Brother Scott, and he can do hands-on training. He can come to your church. He can come to your conference. He can come to your school. Just book him up in advance. And he has come to New York for a few times. I see Lisa Livingstone on. Brother Scott, you have been to Queens Borough Temple a couple of times. So you can have ongoing training. Also, and then his website. And then the GGG gardening WhatsApp group. Brother Scott will come on there sometimes and, just answer your questions briefly. So feel free to join. The link is there, God's Gardening Grow Group. Brother Scott, we have past time. Can I ask one question? We are really past time, but let me see. Brother Scott and Sister Ramona, can you spend about 10 more minutes to answer some questions?
Sure.
Certainly.
All right, so let's stop the screen sharing. And these questions we will basically take from the hands that go up. And please be brief, because we have 10 minutes. So don't take a lot of time. Give other people a chance to answer their question. ask their question also. And just ask one question for now, all right? We can't provide for everyone at this time. We may have to go for a whole day or two or a weekend. That's what Brother Scott will do when he comes to your place. So let's take Blessing. Blessing, I know your hands have been up for a long time now, but go ahead. Oh, Blessing is gone. Let's take Merlin. Merlin, go briefly, quickly.
here.
Oh, Blessing is there. Go ahead, Blessing.
My quick question that when you plant like tomato, what is space you have to give so that it doesn't spread on top of each other?
I would do about a 36 inches between the rows, and in the row, at least 14 to 18 inches between from plant to plant. That depends on the type of tomatoes that you're planting. If they are your cherry tomatoes or your grape tomatoes are more vigorous, the plants grow more they're just a wilder type of plant to grow. If it's some of your slicing tomatoes or your Romas, those plants are more controlled in their growth, and you can even get a little bit closer, but the 14 to 18 is great for those. For your cherry tomatoes, maybe even a wider spacing in the row. But certainly 36 inches between the row will give you enough light transference and allow you to densify your planting in your garden.
Okay, thank you. Merlin, go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for your presentation to both of you. My quick question, I had a proliferation of slugs last year. What can I do to kind of control that this year?
Sister, you want to answer that?
For slugs, you could either put a container with bear in your garden. Although I don't use that, I would just go out there and I tend to take them off instead of like inspecting your garden. They comes out more in the evening time. Or I'll just put a container with some oil and just as I pluck them out, I put them in there.
Okay. Lisa.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brother Scott.
If the plants are young enough, you can cover them, and that will tend to retard the slugs from wanting to climb over them. But there's baits available, et cetera, et cetera. There's quite a few different tools for slugs.
Okay. Lisa, go ahead, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. These presentations just get better and better. Brother Scott, you're awesome.
Hey, Sister Lisa.
Hi, how you do? You are awesome. So on point. But I do have a quick question. One of the concerns that I have and I've been doing a lot of study on is like they're finding a lot of aluminum in the soil from the chemtrails. How can we kind of protect our crops? I think that's something we really need to talk about because it's not known and we need to be aware. Thanks.
Good point to bring out. There is phytoremediation as well as bioremediation. There are certain plants that will draw heavy metals from the soil, heavy metals from the soil. It's an intersection that we have come to, and we're going to have to deal with it. Unfortunately, greenhousing is going to give you a aspect of shielding once you have your soils within it managed and dealt with. But certainly, I think the aspect of doing phytoremediation with plants and bioremediation with plants, using the ones that are going to uptake the heavy metals and be able to try to purge our soils and then protect those soils.
Yeah,
All right.
can have one quick question. You have to do a whole presentation on that, please. Think about it. It's really
All right.
important. Thanks.
Happy to.
Good. So we have people from across the Caribbean, across America, watching and engaging. One person is asking how to fix the soil if it is too heavy and dry for growing in the Caribbean during the dry season.
Sister Ramona?
Compost. Peat moss, I think, would probably not be a good solution because with the heat, you have to constantly water. And in the dry season, all depends upon the ratio. It may be too moist. But I think you always have to work the soil over, add in organic compost, food scraps to amend that soil.
Yeah. I guess this one is for you. But Scott, you were going to say something in addition to that?
No, I'll leave that.
Okay. The question, this one is for you. Is self-watering pot good for indoor gardening?
It all depends on the rate of water flow, because indoors your watering is a lot less because you don't have the wind, you don't have the elements that are weighing and evaporating water molecules that hit the top of the surface. So be careful with those. It could be a tool that would work very, very well, just as long as it's not giving too much water to the plant, because plants don't want that either.
Okay. Gregory is asking, can you use salt to kill the slugs?
Salt works, but yeah, you could do that. I'm sorry, sister. You could use that. You could use salt, but then your soil plants become intolerant to the salt if it's in the soil. So you've got you've got something that's going to work against you.
All right, let's go to Nala. Nala, go ahead, please. Hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Hi, Nala. Yes, hi. Can you give me a list of I'm a beginner and I want to start growing indoors. And you said lettuce and moringa. Is there any other ones to start with indoors?
Almost all of your greens are excellent for indoor. Your kale, collards, bok choy, Napa cabbage, et cetera, et cetera. You can go through the list of your greens, and mostly all of those will do and grow very, very well indoors, because their consumption at the point of maturity can be all the way from a microgreen or a sprout all the way up to the mature plant. So those are wonderful choices that won't require a lot of investment for lighting or otherwise.
All right, we'll take, I see 3 and 3, 6. I see Lisa come back on. I'll take these 6 hands and we will close off for today. Brenda Hill, sorry. Go ahead, Brenda.
Mute. Okay, can you hear me?
I could hear you clearly. Yes.
Okay, great. I got in late because I just got the notice about this. I've never been on it before, but I did have a question because you mentioned in the last part of this something about smoking. And so I wasn't sure if that included herbs as well as what you were talking about, because I'm wondering now about smoked paprika.
My focus in that segment was using like a home smoker, where you're using wood or otherwise to be able to smoke vegetables or et cetera, et cetera. The burning process and the smoking process in that regard has a tail to carcinogens.
Okay.
The smoked paprika that we buy, that's purchased in the market, you just have to review the process. But anytime smoke is involved, cancer is dragging behind.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Galaxy A12, I wish you had put your name. I don't like to call you by your phone's name, but go ahead, please. All right. That's why it's hard to know who it is. Let's go to Veronica. Veronica? Veronica Williams?
Yes, good afternoon. I can't wait till part 3 and 4, because we have talked about some topics that we definitely need full sessions for, namely that moon question of mine, because I was feeling, excuse me, concerned that I was following the moon. I felt a little yoga-esque, I'll say, if you know what I mean. It sounds real gray. So I would love if when you get a moment, when you can, as you can, maybe in the group, if you can post the things that we need to do, because apparently we need to take that into consideration from the jump. Right. So that was my first thing. And I had asked the question about the ants a while ago, and I think I heard you mention something about cinnamon, and I put the cinnamon in the bottom of the plants, in in the thing that I was using to collect the water overflow. And it really did. I at one point I put apple cider vinegar. At one point I put cinnamon, thinking it would make them go away. And they kind of really didn't go away after a while. Several days on their own, maybe even more than a week. They went away on their own. But I wonder whether I should have done anything. It happened to be a leaf of life plant that I was growing from a leaf. Amazingly, it can grow from a leaf. It's like the leaf gets little phalanges and grows in the dirt. It's amazing. God is so amazing. Anyway, and so the taller
Please be
leaf.
brief. We have a limited time.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. So the point is, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to do anything because the taller plant died, but then I left it there because I thought the leaf will start growing again in the dirt once it touches the dirt. It had these smaller leaves that are now growing all over the place. And I'm waiting till they get a little taller to repot it. But I thought, well, ants are outside. Why would I bother ants? They're outside just because they're inside. They're in my plant. Should I have not done anything about the ants, or ants are a problem?
Let's take it there. Brother Scott, respond to that. We want to give other. I told we have.
Thank you. I just wanted him to know how mine
other
lives.
person join in.
Thank you.
So we really want to honor our time and our presenters.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So respond to that, Brother Scott.
Sister Ramona, I'm going to pass the wand to you on the ants.
On the ants. I have pre-treated my soil with diatomaceous earth before I plant. Just sprinkle, and that took care of the ants on the outdoor. In the indoor, cloves, I kind of use cloves, just ground them up a little and sprinkle around, and they tend to take care of the ants problem.
Okay, Gregory, I know I asked one of your questions in the chat. If that's the same questions, then you can lower your hand. If you have a different question, I want to give you a chance to come on now. Gregory?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm thankful for the presentation. I just had a question. How do you fix soil, clay-like soil?
I'll go back to Sister Ramona because she dealt with that just a moment ago with the brother in the Caribbean. So Sister?
With clay, you just have to amend your soil. You have to make it more of a loomy soil. You have to add like peat moss, topsoil, and organic compost just to make it a looser soil, because with clay, nothing can penetrate. It's like a wet, dry kind of situation going on.
Okay.
So soil amendment would be the best for that.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
It's built by nature, so it has to have those things.
All right. Want to thank those of you who joined our WhatsApp group. We have about 70 persons who joined in today, and our presenters will do their best to respond to some of your questions in there. Let's take our last three questions. We have Annie Ogutu. Go ahead, Annie.
Thank you so much, Elder Spencer, for your presentation. First of all, did you start 2 Eastern? Because I came in 2 and the session was already, I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, we started at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, okay. I missed a lot. Thank you. Now, my question is...
No, listen, you can go on our YouTube channel and you can get things that you miss. We're going to post that in a couple of days or so.
Okay.
You'll go into the chat, you'll find the link, NEC Health Ministries, YouTube. But go ahead, answer your question.
Okay. I do have a piece of land, but it's kind of rocky. How do I use the best out of that? It's kind of rocky. It's a good place. I had a good harvest, but it's rocky. How can I improve on that?
Are they small rocks, big rocks?
Small rocks, very small, tiny rocks, but they're all over.
I think if you can clear areas and rake them out, you may still be successful with that. You may have to go to raised beds or elevated with more custom soil. But when it comes to your berries and plants and trees, they will be right at home in the rocky soil.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to Amy.
Yes, thank you so much for taking my question. I appreciate both presentations. My question is, all of my windows have a radiator beneath them. So for indoor planting, should I move them beside it, or is it not bad for it, or is it bad for it?
Well, the heat is one that you're going to certainly need, but you want to be able to satisfy the lighting for your plants. If you can hit those markers when it comes to lighting, your heat, and then of course your water, your plant nutrition, et cetera, the radiator may not be a bad idea. It's going to be excellent for natural heat source. You just need to make sure those plants have sufficient light. If not, they will not do well.
All right. Our final question for tonight, Galaxy A12, you coming on again. Let's go. Tell us your name.
My name is Yuan Yap.
Go ahead with your
I'm
question.
actually from Jamaica, but I'm living here now. I'm just making some suggestion. For one, crop rotation. I believe that can help with the maintenance.
All right, listen, we would love to have your advice, but at this time, if you have a question, we will take that. We wouldn't be able to entertain your advice on gardening at this time. You have a question?
No.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And join the group, and you could share some of your beautiful advice that you learned over the years. We would appreciate learning from you. But at this time, we're going like about almost half an hour beyond our time, and we want to respect the time of our presenters. They have busy lives. All right?
I will agree with you, and it was a wonderful program.
All right, good. All right, so I want to thank all of you. We had, I don't know if we had more, but almost about 270 persons who were on with us today. We pray that God will bless you and that you will leave here to go and get ready for planting. This we have started early in the year. You have enough time to start your planting, get your things ready together. Don't wait until planting time to plant. Get your things ready. Whatever you have to get, you heard all these things. Get yourself prepared. So when the weather changes, the right time you can plant. We will have a final word from both our presenters and then the closing prayer. And we will say goodbye to you until another time. Let's take Brother Scott, and then we'll take Sister Ramona. I guess the two of them are waiting to see who will go first.
Yeah, we just want to encourage everyone to continue moving toward the work of planting. For us at Unstoppable Gardening, our goal is to help people, to help individuals become unstoppable in their gardening. Too many people stop and start. But we want to give you the skills. We want to be able to, through the meetings, to be able to help you in that fashion. The tools that you're going to need for gardening, get them as fast as you can afford to get them. We are living in a very, very unstable marketplace. Don't hesitate, don't wait. Your seeds, there's tremendous changes in the seed market. Get the seeds that you need, get the tools that you need that are going to, and if there's questions, reach out so that you can get the answers that you need.
My advice would be just go out there and start experimenting in your garden. The best way to learn and be successful is just by doing.
Amen. And when you plant and you harvest, share some pictures in the WhatsApp group. Again, the link is in the chat. Join the group. We would love for this to continue, this relationship. And there's a beautiful relationship when you plant. I'm a gardener. You listen, I grow enough vegetables for my family for the entire year. My method of storing is freezing. And so I have enough to last me through the year. I have enough to share with my folks at work, with my neighbors, and I enjoy gardening so much with a small piece of space in Long Island, New York, So may God bless you and keep you, and we're looking forward to having a continued relationship with you. Thank you, Brother Scott. Thank you, Sister Ramona. And thank you to our technical personnel, Judith McLean, who is in the background, doing all this for us, and we will get this up on our YouTube channel soon. We want to end with prayer, so let us pray. Gracious God, thank you for giving us the privilege of living on this beautiful earth so that we can plant and grow and eat and bless others. We pray that you will bless us as we embark in this year, 2025. Some of us will be our first gardening experience. Some will continue. We pray that you'll help us to be creative. The knowledge we have will be utilized well so that we can enjoy the blessings you have in store for us as we grow and reap and harvest. We thank you in Jesus' name. Continue to bless Brother Scott in his ministry and help that others will join him in unstoppablegardening.com to hear more and to learn in practical ways. We thank you for Sister Ramona. As a nurse, she is stepping out and doing little gardening in her yard, enough to feed her family for the year too. We pray that you will bless her technical person, Sister Judy. And we thank you for all those who will be hearing this in the future on YouTube. In Jesus' loving name, amen and amen.
Amen.
Have a good one, everybody.
Amen.
God bless.
God bless.
All right.
Thank you so very much. All the best.